So welcome to the final installment of Origin Weekly Community Call for 2021, I think. We'll be here next week, of course. Hope everyone had a great holiday weekend. We're a little short-staffed this week, but we're here, and we got several topics to cover. We'll start with at least one announcement today. We'll get a liquidity mining update from Josh, check in on our sprint priorities for the next week, and then we have several discussion topics involving how OUSD harvests yield farming rewards, and then some questions that we get frequently from new users coming to OUSD for the first time. And then finally, if anyone wants to say hi, introduce themselves, we'll have a few minutes at the end of the call, and would love to hear from you. Are there any announcements from anyone else before I offer one? Go for it. All right. Well, I come bearing gifts. We're going to be giving some OUSD Origin Dollar to all the attendees of this call. So there's a couple rules. You'll need to DM me in Discord with your Ethereum address. And then you also need to be present during the call. And at the end, I'll take inventory of who all is here. And we love to send you some OUSD as a thanks for being here and joining us. And then, of course, a bonus, a pro tip. When you receive the OUSD in your wallet, if you leave it there, you'll magically have more tomorrow and the next day and the day after that. So it's a gift that keeps on giving. Should we jump into the liquidity mining update, Josh?
Sure, let's do it. So as you may know, our circulating supply is now up to $296 million, which is very exciting. Our APY continues to be quite strong. On Convex, it's returning 20.33% APY, and then the last 30-day trailing APY on OUSD, native OUSD is 21.26. So as we anticipated, these are starting to converge wherever yields are getting closer and closer. Of course, APY on OUSD.com is a little misleading just because we have over $300,000 worth of rewards that are waiting to be harvested. We'll get more into that later. This week, a lot of people were talking about Convex bribing. It was all over crypto Twitter. There's $19.4 million were spent in the last round over the last 2 weeks on Convex bribes. This is up from $7.74 million last round. So it's getting a lot of attention. There's a lot of money being thrown at bribes as Convex continues to thrive. We ended up spending 1.25 million OGN on this last round. So that was, because it's bi-weekly, and our liquidity mining budget is weekly, we had some leftover from last week that we put towards this week's campaign. We also have reserved some for an extra campaign we were going to do on KuCoin to try and attract some more users over there. The interesting thing is that despite the increased competition, there's still a very high ROI on the bribes that are being spent. For every dollar that's spent on bribes, we get $4.97 worth of CRV and CDX rewards. And so it's the ROI is still very much fair, especially for the teams that are providing liquidity to their own pools and are able to receive that reward directly. We are currently, in this past round, we got 973,000 CVX votes voting for our pool, which is 3.69% of the pool. This is roughly in line with what we've been getting in the past. We've also been increasing our position of CVX. So we have Origin Treasuries now holding 43,000 CDX, which is worth $6.3 million. And that CVX is vote locked and voting on behalf of the OUSD pool. And we're going to continue looking for opportunities to increase our position there as a more sustainable way of offering rewards to this pool. One thing we're going to be keeping an eye on December 30th, so just in a few days, there's the first big unlock that's going to happen. So the very first round of convex voting was 16 weeks ago. And so all of those convex tokens are going to unlock. All of the people who blocked up are up at least 3x, maybe close to 4x on their money. So it'll be interesting to see whether those people relock or whether they take profits. So maybe a good buying opportunity for us to pick up CVX for cheap if there's a big sell off there. One thing is really cool. Christmas Day, we saw an anonymous whale come in, bought $80 million worth of OUSD across 2 transactions. He bought $58 million from Curve, which helped rebalance the pool, which was great. Since we've been discussing how to RBAT back ourselves, and he took care of that for us. And then went ahead and minted an additional 21 million OUSD on top of that. We're not sure who it is. In the Convex Discord, it got a lot of attention. People were speculating it's Alameda. Some people said it's DGen Spartan. A random person on Twitter doxed the wallet saying it's F2 Pool. I'm not sure, but nonetheless, we're very happy to have them supporting OUSD. Back to you, Micah. Oh, any questions before we go on?
Yeah, one question, I missed the part. So what's the share of our convex tokens voting for our pool versus the others that are voting from bribes?
Sorry, I don't understand the question.
So we have some convex voting locked tokens, right?
I see. Yeah. So we're 143,000 out of 973,000. So whatever that percentage works out to.
So that's roughly what, 16-17% somewhere.
Something like that.
Cool. Thanks.
Any other questions for Josh on liquidity money? Take a couple of minutes just to check in on our sprint priorities. Week and a half. One of our big projects right now is decentralized on-chain governance. Daniel was out part of last week, and I think got pulled over into a couple other smaller, higher priority things. And then Tom, of course, is out, I think, this week also. So it doesn't look like we're going to make much more progress on that before the end of the sprint, but I just wanted to flag that and remind all of us that that one's, I think, still a top priority going forward. And I guess it will spill over into sprint 17, beginning of January. Interrupt me if there's anything to discuss there. Doman, you've been working on the solution for selling more than one reward token within a single strategy. How's that coming along?
It's coming along fine. I think I'm slowly going to be done with the code, and we'll move to the to Brownie, like mainnet testing and just like verifying everything works as expected. And then I guess it will be soon ready to be. Well, in the meantime, it will all probably already be code reviewed, and then it's almost ready to be deployed.
Okay. Any idea when that might be ready?
So I'm off starting Wednesday. So I think I need like aside from tomorrow, I think 2 or 3 more days. So that'll be second part of next week.
It's done. Once this is done, that introduces the ability for us to sell both CRV and CVX. Is that the idea?
Yeah, that's going to be one thing. But I think that can already be done, but we're waiting for the Chainlink oracles to include the CDX prices. And there'll be other small things like, first we thought that it's going to be a scope creep, but it's kind of easy to add in the functionality to limit the maximum amount of tokens we sell in a single transaction. You know, something that's been problematic right now because we couldn't sell compound, and Daniel needed to do some flash loan magic to get those compound tokens sold. So yeah, that will also be another thing that'll be part of the pull request.
Cool. Sounds good. Daniel, you were also working on reward token collection. Is that still a priority? I see you're green, but I don't hear you. Does anybody hear Daniel?
All right, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, I had to lose all external headphones and microphones. But anyway, all right. Yes, reward token sales are my main priority. The comp sales, we have a later discussion point about switching from Uniswap to using SushiSwap. And with the liquidity on SushiSwap, that just completely solves our issues selling comp. We are now in progress on executing Proposition 16 in our governance, which will let us collect CRV and CVX from the compound strategy. That will also switch us to selling CRV. We'll probably also need to switch to bigger liquidity to be able to sell the big first chunk of it. Then CVX, we just heard from Chainlink this past week, and they did not get that out before they all went on Christmas vacation, so they're saying that that's early January before we get an oracle. We could discuss if we want to manually sell it by doing a governance action to pull the CVX from OUSD, have Origin sell it, and then put the proceeds back in. I hate having that much money just sitting there doing nothing for that long and not showing up in our yield. Do we want to stop and talk about that one first?
Yeah, I think we would. We should definitely try and sell it, and if we can sell it before the 30th, that's probably good, as a lot of people are predicting that the price is going to drop. I don't know, can we get it through governance in time for that?
Yes, we would need to we have a 2-day time lock on the governance. We won't actually be able to collect it until that 16 goes through, but we can go ahead and put in place an actual transaction to sell it and go ahead and run it through, go ahead and mock out exactly what we need to do and have it run ahead of time through the governance and then execute or not execute it as we get to that point. We can also, simultaneously with putting it in the governance time lock, we can also do a snapshot vote on doing that. So we still have our vote and still have that go through before we do it. But just go ahead and figure out exactly what it is and get it into the time lock now.
Yeah, I think we get back into the time lock. I don't know why anyone would be opposed to us collecting that yield, as our APY is, being vastly underreported due to the, our inability to claim this, $300,000 worth of rewards.
Yep. I think that with the later discussion on changing how we handle the allocation or the rewards collections, I think that solves the Aave V2 thing. We may just poke it once or twice in the next couple of weeks just to make it go on schedule with the Aave collection timing. But once we move to a more frequent, if we're collecting every 2 days, we don't have any problem and everything just flows smoothly, which is, a 1% fee, I think, would be doing that easily.
I have one other question coming back to the project that that Doman is working on. If we had the Chainlink feed for CVX, that would allow us to liquidate it But if we wanted to liquidate it and CRV automatically, that's where we need Doman's change. Is that right?
Correct. Domans is to make it so that both would be sold automatically.
Gotcha.
And and this is fun, Doman, if we decide to change the way the collections work, we may need a rethink on the whole, or just a different architecture for selling reward tokens anyway, which could be better. That'll be later in talking about this stuff.
Okay, cool. And then the last thing to note on sprint priorities is just a reminder that the new staking contract, new proposal there is still blocked by Josh and Matt to make a proposal. So we'll come back to that next week, hopefully. Any comments or questions on sprint priorities before we jump into the discussion topics? If you think of something, don't hesitate to interrupt. Josh, do you want to kick off the discussion about where to liquidate?
Yeah, we ran into this. We were all a little bit surprised at how, when we were liquidating the comp rewards, we were surprised that it was so easy to bend the bonding curve. When our slippage was too high, Daniel came up with a nice hack to bend the bonding curve, sell the rewards, and then bend it back. But that highlighted the fact that liquidity is quite low for some of these coins because we're using Uniswap v2. So I just put some numbers down here so we have them, but you can see it's only $810,000 worth of liquidity on Uniswap v2 for comp. That's by far the low, actually, and for Convex, which we haven't even started liquidating rewards for yet, there's not even a pool on v2. And so the options here are either to move to Uniswap v3, which also has decent liquidity, or we can go to SushiSwap, which is the best option for Convex, CRV, and Aave. It's not the best option for comp, but by and large, SushiSwap is the best option for DeFi coins. It also works the same as Uniswap v2, so probably the easiest for us to swap out. Daniel, do you want to speak to this? I know you started working on this already.
Yes, it is just because SushiSwap and Uniswap v2 have the same ABI, the same way of talking to them, and the same methods. We just send the vault a call to switch the Uniswap contract address, and that's all that we need to do, and it works. I've tested it in Fork, and I've tested that it sells comp, Aave, and Curve tokens with our existing implementation of everything. So it's just going to be one message sent to the vault to change that by a governance and time lock.
All right. And so are you going to be queuing that up?
Yeah, I'll queue that up today.
Okay. And is that one address for all tokens, or do we update each token specifically?
Currently, it is one address for all tokens. In thinking about the future of selling reward tokens, we probably do want to have the ability to pick on an individual basis.
Yeah. Certainly moving to Sushi is far superior than we are today. Also means we'll have less slippage when selling. So that'll be good as well.
Should we make a governance proposal for this?
We have not. Are you talking about snapshot or on-chain governance?
If it's the sort of thing that we should put there.
Yeah, we can run one on Snapshot. It can just run concurrently with the time lock.
Okay. Who wants to write that up? I can, but
I'll do it.
You guys know more details than I do. All right, thanks, Daniel. Any other questions or anything to discuss there on that one? Josh, were you in charge of the next discussion topic too?
I am, yeah. So last week we talked about coming up with some rules for how frequently we should have the Chainlink keepers call our harvest function. And as I was thinking more about it, I realized that maybe what we should do is actually copy what Curve and Convex do instead, and that is they offer 1% reward to whoever pokes the function first and executes that work on behalf of the protocol. And what's really nice about this is it becomes more decentralized and more resilient than relying on Origin to have to fund the Chainlink keepers. And on top of that, we're having to pay a bit of a premium to Chainlink every time they do it. So we charge a little bit of a premium wherever the gas costs are. So we can save some money by doing this, and we also make the protocol more decentralized, more resilient. Basically, we do 1% of whatever the harvested rewards will be. Will go to whoever calls that function first. So it's basically you'll call it. We can count on community to watch that and call it, and sort of like a reverse auction. Whoever calls it first accepts the lowest amount of reward, but then that means that we're getting this function called far more frequently. And as Daniel was saying, for our current numbers, it'd be about every 2 days that we'd be harvesting instead of once a week, which would give us a much smoother APY than what we have right now. And as our circulating supply continues to grow, that number, that frequency could increase as well. We can even continue using Chainlink as sort of a caller of last resort. Basically, how that would work would be we'd have Chainlink keepers check the function, and if it can call it, pay for the gas, and including a function to pay itself the required amount of link, we could have all of that happen in one call, and so that way we can trust this system will continue running, and Chainlink will basically self-fund itself when it does get used to poke the contracts. Daniel came up with a cool idea for the daily rebases as well. And that is we could, slowly increase the reward that we pay out with every block after midnight UTC or whenever the daily rebase is supposed to happen. And basically, again, it's the bounty goes to whoever is willing to accept the lowest reward. And so that way we could count on that getting called on a regular basis, and is again more decentralized and resilient than using Chainlink. Any thoughts or comments on this? This is really putting us forward for discussion. Would love to hear any opposition or any improvements to this idea.
With 1%, like how does that translate in terms of like the bounty that with of course the harvest would get?
It would be 1% of the amount that's being harvested. So if we harvest $100,000 worth of rewards, you get $1,000 like sent back to you as a reward for calling the function. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, so it essentially works out to an auction. Just whoever is willing to grab the least, pay it for the least amount of money. And I think it switches all the incentives for calling around to exactly where we want it to be. It will work. It's kind of cockroach proof because it's free money out there if somebody wants to grab, if nobody's calling it. We don't have to do anything. No external system has to be up. Somebody just has to know that they can call this, and it works. And as long as lots of people are calling it, or as long as more than one person is trying to call it, then the prices should drive down to much cheaper than we're currently paying. It also switches us to a system where we get, as Josh said, more frequent reward token collections.
I love it. I think it begs the
cool.
question. Begs the question. If you're somebody who's interested in doing this, how much of the associated tooling or automation you would need, So I assume that we're not going to build much of that.
We pretty much have to build it because right now the reward tokens are just immediately sold and there's no real on-chain record of how much was sold, I guess, or at least there's not. We could have some kind of, I guess there is a way we could sort of put it on top of our current system, but regardless, we're going to have to write some code for it in order to know how much was sold and to efficient. It gets if we write it kind of on top of our current system, then we have to total up everything we have before and after, which gets fairly expensive from a gas point of view. And the cheaper we can get the gas on this, the more frequently people will run it by a lot. So in the ideal situation, we just look at how many reward tokens we collected just before we send them to the vault. And then our gas is extremely cheap on it. But it will take some contract changes one way or the other.
I guess.
And Daniel, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, I guess part of my question is, how sophisticated does this person need to be who's going to call it? Like, will we be showing all the relevant numbers and it's a matter of them clicking a button and submitting the transaction? Or do they need to be doing their own computations to know if this is worthwhile for them?
This is basically the same kind of thing Mevish people do all the time. To know if it's pays back, you just run a simulation of running it, and then you look at how much money you ended up with at the end, and you decide if it's worth it to run it or not. So this should be extremely common code that lots of people running around on the blockchain have. They just have to know that it's there, and possibly once people start running it, Mev people will start seeing it and start having a battle for it.
Cool.
Yeah, for what it's worth, Curve Convex don't really have any tooling around this that I've seen, but it gets magically called, kind of how you'd expect. I think there may be, insiders who built their own bots that take advantage of this. I'm not entirely sure.
What's next there? You to decide if this is what we want to proceed with.
I guess figure out what it would actually look like, sketch out some on the contract side and see what it looked like, both on the rebase side and on the harvest side.
Where would this fall in terms of priorities versus decentralized governance contracts?
I think this falls after anything to do with collecting rewards tokens. After that, it's up to Josh.
Yeah, I mean, if everyone's on board, I think we should figure out where it slots in. The only downside I see here is APYs will be down by 1%, right? Origin's been footing the bill for these updates so far, but I don't think that's a meaningful difference for the holders. And I think the benefits far outweigh the downsides there.
Yeah, this isn't 1% in absolute terms. This is 1% of the APY, which would be, if it was 30%, right, that would be 0.03. Yeah, 0.3% difference in absolute terms on the APY.
Yeah, it's basically funding the gas costs. Is really all it is at appropriate scale.
It has less of an impact than the OGN buyback.
Correct, by a lot.
Daniel, you had proposed pulling out some of the logic for dealing with rewards tokens out of the vault and having that as a separate contract. Do you want to talk through that a little bit?
Yes, this is just in thinking about this today. If we're switching over how we're selling rewards tokens, we could move the selling of rewards tokens into its own contract. This would make it cleaner for us to have a different route for selling each kind of rewards token, so we can update just one of them. If, for example, Comp has better prices on Uniswap v3, whereas Curve has a better price on SushiSwap, we can have different ones selling. We also may want to have different slippage thresholds for different ones depending on how well the oracles work out. And by having that all live in a separate contract, we don't have to mess with the vault contract when we're upgrading stuff to do with selling the rewards tokens. And in general, that just lets us take stuff out of the vault contract, which makes me happy, because then there's less, just less code in there is safer.
Yeah, I strongly agree with that. I was just thinking about it as we were discussing these new strategies for rewards. I think the simpler we keep the vault, the better it is in terms of security and our own. I think it's a very good idea.
Yeah, and really, when you look at like 1% of rewards, we're talking about tens of thousands of dollars. This is sort of a max on what we'll get to before it's going to be economically advantageous to call a function, and so that lets us move a lot faster and take more risks, so to speak, than we can with a vault. So I strongly support breaking that logic out as well.
And just on the side, when we have an easier way to work with that, we can also potentially do that so that it will sell, let's say just Aave tokens if it was Aave Day or something. But because the logic then would be only much less logic running by doing it that way, the gas prices could go down a bit, which might, would make it economical to run pieces of it much faster. Because basically our rate of running this with the new system is gas price driven. So if we make the gas cost half as much and we're still doing a 1% fee, then our thing gets called twice as often.
Any other logic lives, all that stuff? I've got a couple of other topics. Oh yeah, go ahead, Domin.
I just wanted to say I think it's a great idea. Yeah. Just now I'm trying to. I was thinking of adding the slippage thing, and you really need to mess with the vault contract, and it's pretty cool that all that. If we're going to be changing that rapidly, that it lives on a separate contract, on a separate storage. So yeah, I think it's great thinking. Separating that out.
We've got a couple of other discussion topics that I wanted to get into, but if you missed our earlier announcement and you're interested in getting some free OUSD as a gift for attending the call, send me a direct message on Discord with your Ethereum address and hang out until the end of the call, and we'll take story of who all is here. So thanks for being here. A couple of quick things I wanted to run through. We get a lot of questions from people who are new to OUSD asking about KuCoin versus holding OUSD in a self-custody wallet. And even for people who are experienced with OUSD, KuCoin's a little bit of a black box. Kind of hard to tell when to expect what particular amount of yield and that sort of thing. So I feel like I should have done this a long time ago, but I did a little experiment where I put the same amount of OUSD in a new wallet, and then I staked the same amount on KuCoin, and I've got some very preliminary back of the napkin numbers here in the notes where you can see the yield coming in to the wallet and then coming into KuCoin, and the preliminary conclusion there is it's approximately the same amount. They don't seem to be, skimming part of the yield off. Of course, they do offer the POL token rewards on top of it. I will keep an eye on this over the next, at least a week or so, and confirm that the numbers continue to be where we would expect them to be. it's a little bit concerning because when we had our negative yield day, when we moved all the convex funds over, and then or moved a lot of funds to the convex strategy, and then they simultaneously updated their system and changed the interface for staking. I wasn't running this experiment at the time, so I haven't been able to confirm that all that yield showed up in the KuCoin accounts. But anyway, I'll keep an eye on it for the next several days at least, and confirm that there aren't any surprises there. But so far, it looks like I would expect it to look. And then the last topic that I wanted to jump into was we've had several requests for little video tutorials, and it's something we talked about doing various times in the past. So my plan for this week is to do at least one very short introductory video, like getting started with OUSD. Here's what you need, here's where and how to get the tokens, and then what you can expect once you have them. And I'll try to keep it to just a few minutes. Don't want it to be too long, make it bite-sized and easily shareable. And then I think we can follow that up with at least, I was thinking maybe two more, because the common questions that we get that Doman reminded us about are, why is the APY so high? It's, to believe. So there's a very simple explanation for that, but it's not intuitive. And so it should be it's definitely something that we can explain better instead of making people dig into the docs or historical Discord conversations. And then the third one is just a general, like, how it works, beyond how to get OUSD and what to expect, but the basic mechanics of the thing. And one extra layer of that I think is worth noting is the differences between the yield that comes from rebasing and the yield that comes from harvesting. Right now, the difference between the two is significant effect on, it makes the yield lumpy, as Daniel says. Hopefully that's less relevant in the future, especially if we get these incentives aligned and the process is more decentralized. But for now, I think that those are relevant topics that we get into a lot in this call, and we talk about a lot in Discord, and they're sort of reasons that lead to a lot of the questions that we get. So, are there any thoughts from you guys about what else we would want to cover, or what concepts are missing from these three short videos?
I think we should do some high-level vision type stuff on why OUSD, going through some of the pain points of yield farming and how OUSD solve these problems. I think when people understand kind of what OUSD is trying to accomplish, we tend to get quite excited about it. So let's set the high level vision, and then I think going through some tutorials and some of these key points, I think will be very useful for people, and it's something that we've gotten a lot of requests for.
Cool. I'm thinking of these.
Maybe also.
Yeah, Dolan, what's up?
Go ahead, Frank.
Just to say, I think it's a great idea. First of all, Mike, thanks for doing that. I wonder if we should think about the various audiences, for OUSD, the very basic users that are not familiar with crypto versus the more experienced degens that have very specific questions about yield and the protocol itself. Just so that we don't try to fit everybody in the same in the same audience. Just one thought.
In Discord, we basically get asked the same two questions twice, 3 times, 4 times a day. And so if you figure there's 20 people asking those questions in their heads for every one person who asks in Discord, we'll hit a large portion of people's immediate needs right away. We should make videos for specific people, but this is super low-hanging, obvious fruit that's jumping up and down in front of us on these first couple.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and also a lot of questions were like, how is OGN connected to OUSD? I don't know if we might not be clear enough that it's a governance token and how it works, so maybe covering that would also help.
Great reminder.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
So coming back to Josh's comment, I was thinking of the first and maybe the second and third being pretty low production quality, like the DHH Rails blog tutorial kind of videos. In the Vision one, I want something a little higher production quality, something with a little longer shelf life. And then maybe the same for the OGN thing, but we can circle back on it, and I will keep all those things in mind as I'm putting together second.
Yeah, I don't think we need to over polish here. I think it's more important to get something out quickly, and we can continue to refine and add additional content. But we're going from basically no content to having some content. So no matter what you put out, it's going to be a benefit and an improvement to where we are right now.
Do you have any other thoughts after this meeting? Please drop them here in the notes. About, what points to hit, and I'll try to do that.
And is this a project you're taking on, Micah?
I'll take a stab at it and see how it goes.
Cool. Yeah, if you want to float like anything by me, whether it's an outline or whatever, happy to chip in on this.
Do you want to talk about the redeem fee? Oh yeah, this is something we talked about last week, and you were going to think about it. Thanks for reminding us.
Matt, do you want to mute, by the way? Your keyboard's really loud.
Sorry about that.
Maybe this is, I don't know what's the production effort. I'm just thinking if there's like, an infographic video maker we could use. Obviously, we would need assets, but I would imagine there are some builder tools that really help you like animate stuff. And maybe we could get that sort of video done also with not too much production effort. Not sure yet. Don't know any of those tools. I just know they exist.
I'll take a look. Daniel, are you with us?
I am with you. Yep.
So you had an action item from last week to think about the fee on redeems. Did you have any new thoughts about that?
Yeah. So the fee really only matters during minor, or from a security point of view, it really only matters during minor or major peg loss on a stable coin when the oracles are not caught up to date on the change. Because if the oracles are caught up to date on change, we're fine. It also could drive a little bit of yield if people are moving in or out. But the big picture is it really only matters during a peg loss and when the oracles aren't up to date. Currently, I looked at the Chainlink oracles. They say that they'll update their oracles if they're 0.3% off for DAI, 0.5% off for USDT, and 0.5% off for USDC. That corresponds basically, or the 0.5% corresponds exactly to what our rebase ratio, our redeem fee currently is. So it might be worth talking to Chainlink and see if they could tighten the spreads on those oracles to where they would update faster if it changed. Regardless, in the case when if we didn't have a fee right now and a coin lost peg and the oracles were not up to date, what would happen is basically we would shift the percentage of backing coins into whatever coin is least valuable. In theory, that matters a lot less right now because we are currently, the majority of OUSD is in convex, which is in 3 curve, which is a mix of stable coins. And that will already shift over to being heavily weighted towards whichever stable coin is less valuable in case of a peg loss. We'll have more of that stable coin, certainly, but we will have, our mix will shift. Secondly, limiting that right now is that only the funds in our default strategies can be withdrawn or placed into right now, which means that there's a limited amount that somebody, let's say that for some reason DAI became $1.05 or USDT became 95 cents. There's only the funds that are in those default strategies that could actually be withdrawn by somebody, even if they were mispriced. And so that's not the majority of the funds in OUSD. Also, along with that, hang on just a second. We still have our guarantee beyond all this that we are always going to increase in stable coins or stay the same when people are withdrawing or minting from OUSD. So that guarantee carries through even without it. I guess those are kind of the high level considerations on it. Any thoughts or questions on that before I talk more on it?
I definitely agree with talking to Chainlink about tightening up those ranges. It should be an easy ask because these are stable coins, and so we're not that volatile. We're not spending that much updating these. I don't think it, is unreasonable, and there's probably other people who would appreciate having tighter spreads on that as well. So let's definitely bring it up to them.
Yeah. So if they bring it up to that, I think we could, kind of match into what they're doing. I think we could certainly move to 0.3% pretty easily. I don't think there's, in practice, I think they're actually updating more often than their minimums. I see updates frequently for, very small, or not frequently, I'll have to look into it, but, for smallish amounts. So I think it's...
Well, they also have the ping that happens at a certain interval, no matter what, the time-based one. So I think that's what's getting hit when you're seeing it, because these stable coins just aren't moving that much. So I bet we could, they could probably increase these guarantees with very little actual change to, the amount of cost it takes to keep these running.
Yep. So we should talk to them, I guess, before we change anything.
Would we be at risk, for example, if Chainlink wouldn't change the updates, if they would keep it at 0.5%? Would we be at risk of flash loan attack? Somebody just uses like a large amount to get the advantage of that 0.1% in case we change the exit fee to 0.3. So there's like a 0.1 difference to be maybe gained.
Yes. So that really comes down to if whatever change is permanent or temporary. If it's a temporary change, anything that's going on like that, we're probably gonna net out with more stable coins. We will with even having some redeem fee. We'll have more stable coins at the end of it than we did at the beginning of whatever they did. So it really only matters if a stable coin permanently, so to speak, loses its peg and the oracles are wrong.
Mm-hmm. Thanks.
So what's next here? Talk to Chainlink?
Yeah. Josh, you want to do that?
Yeah, what are we asking for? 0.25?
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right.
The last thing I had on the agenda was to reference our governance proposal on Snapshot for, this is our weekly strategy allocation proposal. The third time we've done this, I think. And I just wanted to ask maybe Daniel, working out, like how much work is involved once this proposal ends and once the voting ends? Do we need more tooling or what's it go?
I think Josh is be a good one to answer on this. I definitely think we need more public tooling for people to use in deciding and making these allocations with being able to see what the actual effects of them are, as opposed to picking blindly.
Yeah, right now it's you kind of have to go to a bunch of different places and put the numbers in a spreadsheet and actually run them to make an educated decision here. And so, low effort, we should at least document that and give people links to all the random tools they need to make these kind of decisions. But it'd be nice to have a dashboard that shows you all the different APYs and things in one place. I do think the latest tooling that Daniel built for generating strategist proposals and verifying strategist proposals, that's been a tremendous help, especially as we're increasing our cadence of making these changes.
Yeah, the work in creating the strategist proposals has gone down from like 3 days to like 2 hours on this side, so that's good.
As a voter, I was just struggling to start out with is the current allocation,
right?
What I think the future allocation should be, and I think it naturally deviates from the past configuration because new mints by default go into the Aave strategy or something, and yeah.
So one thing we could do is just make a spreadsheet that lets you plug in the current numbers and shows you percentages and everything, and kind of gives you a little worksheet spreadsheet for what changes would be. Just a Google Docs you could copy from.
Is that something that one of you guys want to throw together?
I could do it later this week probably, but that's not going to help this week's vote.
Like the
I'll do it I'll do it if I get time. My thought here is we'll just do like a read-only spreadsheet, and then we'll update it, and then everyone can see kind of the numbers we're working off of.
Just link it out of the current vote each week this week.
Yeah. It'd be nice if we could have it pulling stuff from on chain. I don't know if there's a nice way to do this with a Dune dashboard or something. It would be nice to have something a little bit more live updating versus a spreadsheet. I might give that some thought.
Yeah, the long-term fun way would be something that not only live updates the input data, but lets you tweak and play with the outputs as you adjust things and see what the effects of all your changes would be.
Yes, please.
Well, I think it's safe to say these are all nice to haves. Right now, it'd be great to have someone in the community contribute there. It sounds like a fun little engineering project. But the core components for the next weeks. Okay, is there anyone to say hi, introduce themselves, let us know if they ended up here, what you're working on, excited about? So, free to speak.
I don't know if this is on my end, but I'm having problems hearing you, Michael.
Yeah, I missed about half of what he just said.
Speaker.
Maybe I'll
I think
try
you
again.
ended if yeah, go ahead.
I was saying if there's anyone who wanted to say hi and introduce themselves, let us know how they ended up here, what they're excited about. Feel free to unmute. If not, we'll be here same time, same place next week. Any other closing thoughts before we go?
Hey, Micah. Hey, everybody. This is Max. I am a longtime hodler, and dude, I've been bringing people to OUSD the last couple of weeks. I've got 2 meetings next week to introduce OUSD to a couple friends of mine. And dude, videos would be awesome. Even just basic, super short videos. I actually am going to continue DMing you with some of the things that tripped up a couple of people I brought in last week. But yeah, man, I'm excited about that one. But hey, everybody, love the projects. Very excited about OUSD right now, and obviously the NFT world. So hey, everyone.
Super
Nice
awesome to
to
hear
see
from
you,
you.
man.
Hey.
Hey, nice to meet you, Josh. Yeah, hey, Domingue. Hey, everybody.
Yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what should go in those videos or what else we can improve. What are you up to? Where are you from? What's your story?
Yeah, I have. So I am a community member here, holding OGN and OUSD, and have played around a little bit, even back when we were on the Rinkeby test network back in the day, and I was just trying to learn what everything was. Josh was really excited about it, and so I know Josh personally, and Daniel as well, Daniel Von Fange. So yeah, just following along, and this was the 3rd meeting that I've been able to actually make. I'm in a little break because it's the end of the year, so thanks to the OGN team. As well for the OUSD. I'll be excited to tweet that out with a link to our Discord at the end of the meeting. But yeah, just a kind of a fanboy. Yeah.
Awesome. Great to have you here. Anyone else want to say hi?
Yeah, hi, this is Jack. I also am fairly new to your group. I've purchased OUSD and OGN. The videos would have been super helpful to really describe the difference between them and the value of holding the OGN. I understand is one of governance, but I think that's outside of the scope of many people who are fairly new to the crypto world. I also have a large following. I've been in crypto since about 2014, helped get Ethereum off the ground, and also worked with early Bitcoin mining. So I have a large group of people who come to me quite often asking about the crypto world, and I'm excited to learn a little bit more about OUSD, but the videos are going to be very valuable to me in doing that, as well as I'm sure to yourselves. So I reinforce the hurrah that you're going to be doing those. Well done.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. If you have other questions about OUSD that you haven't been able to figure it out yet, feel free to message us or DM me. We're all here and happy to answer those questions, and while we're trying to get these videos made.
Yeah.
Great. Anyone else before we go? Thanks for being here. Until next year.
Have a great one.
Thanks all.
Good week, everyone. Thanks.